We set up our warehouse, and the people in our parts department, they're right next to the warehouse door. So if they need to look at something, pull something off the shelf, if a customer needs additional pictures of it, it's right there. We've really only hit the tip of the iceberg as far as everything that we purchased. We're adding 20 to 30 items a day, but there's another 2,000 to 3,000 items that we need to add. We'd like people to understand that we're not just a parts guy answering a phone, entering a part number, that we really know the cars, that we can help, that you're not just buying the part from us, you're buying the assistance. You're getting the knowledge and the help of what part's the right part for your car, how to put it on, where it goes, a little bit more than just here's your part, thank you kind of thing.
Liebe Damen und Herren, herzlich willkommen bei Spec-5 World Tour. We come to you for round 4 from a track that stands above all others in terms of challenge, in terms of grandeur, and in terms of scale and reputation. It's the Nurburgring Nordschleife Industry Fahrten for round 4 of Spec-5 World Tour here on HJBC. Coverage brought to you again by RC Sales Porsche Parts. Go to rcsales.com for all that is Porsche. RC has thousands of parts available for virtually any Porsche model, providing high quality service with a personal approach, and with worldwide shipping available, you won't need to go anywhere else. Visit rcsales.com today. Well, this week it's David Haynes joined by Alex Albert, Michael Derby on our production. This is a track you and I both know and love, Alex, but we know how challenging and heartbreaking it can also be. We've got the 45-minute race coming up, but a more extended qualifying session. Qualifying around here is, again, a massive challenge. What is it? Almost 14 miles of racetrack to try to conquer with no runoff, no forgiveness.
I will agree about the no runoff and no forgiveness. I was never good at math and adding it all up. I know it's quite a few corners, and it takes quite a while to get around, but you're absolutely right that this is the most beautiful racetrack in all the world, and I'm delighted to join you here tonight.
So as always in this series, it's the most up-to-date global Mazda MX-5 Cup cars in a style of racing somewhere between Spec Miata, Spec MX-5 and MX-5 Cup. We're looking at Rui Coimbra. He's currently on the pole position at the moment. The driver's getting a couple of flying laps to attack this in a 30-minute qualifying session. My back of the envelope says in a best case scenario, you'd get 3 flying laps in this session, maybe even only 2. Rui Coimbra. Oh, no, you would get 3. You would get 3 because of where the outlap is to start qualifying laps here. Ronnie Coates is also on a good one as well. James Hansen, Michael Coates, and Ken Copeland is our top 5 at the moment. So Ronnie Coates, he's just coming through the Tiergarten, the final section of the lap. He's had some purple sectors. Is this lap going to shoot him up to the pole position? He needs to beat an 8:03.7, and he does with an 8:02.8. Fantastic one. 12 minutes left in the session. We're doing 8 minutes laps. I think he's going to get one more.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see anyone go sub 8 minutes. That is quite the barrier to break in this car, but solo. But yeah, man, these times are quick, and they're really getting after it.
Many sectors to keep an eye on around this track, and boy, am I trying. Ronnie Coates is
Curtis Jones just jumping up the list in the 99.
Yeah, 8:03.1. Curtis Jones jumps to second place. Oh, and I think he's then gone and reset after the line, and where you start with a short formation to start a flying lap.
Yeah.
You might have time for one more if you can.
Yeah, and I think that was a smart call by the crew or the driver there. As long as he has a lap left, and it looks like they're limited to 3, as long as he hasn't... Yeah, he should be able to start his 3rd lap, and the officials should allow him to finish it. As you can see, the timing clock has now changed over to 11 minutes. So that is the allowance for any cars here that go here at the end.
two classes of competitors, even though they're in identical cars with an identical fixed setup, all racing together. Pro class and open class. Of course, as you can see, Ronnie Coates at the moment, the outright pole position at the front of pro class, but Josh Olsen in that class battle, currently with the best qualifying time. Andrew Gilliland leads that championship in the open class, but he doesn't have a qualifying time at all right now. And it will be difficult to progress your way through the field for every place that it is easy to make an overtake in these cars, down the Dottinghur, the long straight towards the end of the lap, for example. There is about 20 other kilometers where it is unwise and dangerous to pass around here. You really can get stuck in a train for at least half a lap.
Yeah, this is a tough course to pass on. Although I love it and believe it's the best course in all the world, it's probably not the best course for sprint racing. Just because, like you mentioned, there are sections where you just have to give up and sometimes ride behind a guy, and you can lose a lot of time. And in cars like we're racing tonight, that can mean losing that draft. And if say that you got behind someone in an inopportune time, maybe in the Lauda kink, and you weren't able to get through Bergwerk quick enough up to the Gustafson Straight and all the way through Moot Curve, you might lose the lead pack, and that could be very detrimental to your race.
So looking at Andrew Gilliland, open class points leader, no time on the board just yet. Is this one looking clean so far? It's kind of just got a bank one at this point in the session, I think, for young Andrew Gilliland. Alex, you're aware that this driver is 11 years old and immensely talented. It makes me think that both of us waited far too late in life to get on iRacing and get racing.
I was just doing some Googling on the name to see if I could, I thought I saw somewhat of a similar name in the Toyota GR Cup racing at COTA last weekend. So I have a friend racing in that, and so I was following it, and I think there might be another Gilliland in that series. But now that I know they're 11, I don't think it's the same person, but maybe a relation.
So just under 9 minutes left on the clock. Drivers crossing the start-finish line now are going to be able to finish their laps, but the checkered flag won't wait on you when time expires.
So I just found him, and there is an Andrew Gilliland, but he has our Andrew Gilliland has two eyes, and the Andrew Gilliland that races in the Toyota GR Cup has an eye in me.
I followed the different spelling of the Gilliland.
Right, but I'd watched your guys' coverage from Daytona, and then I was watching, like I mentioned, my friend, racing last weekend, and I thought, I think I recognize that name. It's from the HJBC coverage, and I did recognize the name. I never caught the spelling. I just heard it.
It was attached to the wrong face. So final corner here for Gilliland in the RC Sales tribute livery on the Mazda. Is he going to stick a qualifying time? He is. It's only going to move him up fractionally, and then he calls time on that. He was just maybe 15, 20 seconds short of being able to finish another lap. That's the only qualifying lap Gilliland will get, and will start at best 7th in class, and at best 17th outright. There are a few other drivers out there still improving on this one, like Ronnie Coates in 3rd, like Rui Coimbra in 2nd. James L. Hansen is on the pole at the moment, but he's not on track, so he won't get to do another lap, and he won't be able to defend that time from the drivers who are on track and improving right now. Coimbra in 2nd, Coates in 3rd, even Copeland in 6th, or Camden Hibbert in 7th at a far more mature 14 years of age.
Hey, and I appreciate James trying to make a liar out of the commentators with almost getting in the 759s there. Nice lap. The only guy there in the 8 flats. So let's see how many minutes we got left.
6.5. So who's far enough around on a lap that we're going to see them take the checkered flag pretty shortly? I reckon Ronnie Coates is just 2 or so sectors away. And then after him, we expect Copeland, Coimbra, and then Cams and Hibbert. Coates has got a couple purple sectors. In fact, I think he's got 3 on this lap so far, suggesting that there's a few places around the lap that he has been absolutely fastest of all. Coimbra has been quick in some of the other sectors, and I don't think... No, Coates got this lap off to a decent start as well. So this one could be it. It's coming around to one of the last decision-making parts of the lap, because you want to think about how aggressively you go over the hill there at Galgenkopf and carry all of your speed onto the Dottinger Hohe. You are a minute and some away from the checkered flag, but only 1 braking zone away.
Yeah, I think these are some of the best laps you can have in the sim. I mean, he's got a good starting spot. He's going to be right up in there, and he just gets to send it, right? He's got a banker. This is the sim. Just send it. Set these purple sectors. Have fun. This is something you can't do in real life. If you write the car off, you write the car off. We're starting 3rd. These are the kind of laps that I think are a lot of fun.
Well, it's his last attempts at it for Coates, and he's got that 1 braking zone at the Tiergarten to come. You pretty much don't brake the car as you go into the final corner. He's been up in some of the sectors so far. Ken Copeland's actually taken some of those purples away from him on this lap so far, but for Coates, expect this to be an improvement. 2 seconds, 0.8. He's looking to improve it, and he does by just the half a second to 8:02.3. So he improves the time by half a second, stays in that 3rd place. Rui Coimbra, his lap is over. Something's happened to Coimbra, and he's not going to elevate himself from 2nd. Copeland's going to try to take the checkered flag, looking to improve from an 8:07.7. And I think this lap has been an improvement so far from Ken Copeland. Checkered flag comes up very quickly out of the final corner, and he jumps up into 3rd in the dying breath of this session with an 8:02.2. Only just eclipsing that improved time from Ronnie Coates as well. So good final lap from Ken Copeland. Chris Brunnemer, Camden Hibbert are still going to come around and complete a lap. Orlando Harrell in the open class. He's 15th outright at the moment. And 5th in his class. But he could definitely still improve on this one, as well as Odyssey Adams Jr. jumps to 5th, I think it was, just then. So a lot of improvement happening late in this session. About 2/3 of the drivers are done and parked, and there's just a couple that have timed their final runs well at the end of this session. A little bit of improvement for Herald there then. Did he go from 15th to 12th outright, and jumped a lot of spots in the open class though as well, to 2nd in that class. Geordie Fike crosses the line as well.
Yeah, I think Tom there, the leader in the open class, went just a bit quicker on his last lap there.
Yeah, Tom Athon
extended his lead.
Is 8th outright, leader of the open class, as you can see from the timing column. Chris Brunnemer is in the Hudson Buck section, so he's already taken the checkered flag on his final lap. That looks like it actually fell short of an improvement by about 1 second there. And is David Stabe going to get around for another lap? No, he's not. In 20th, but a couple drivers who will start behind him without a qualifying time. Eugenio Pellicci, Lee Martin, Joel Singleton, Sean Hayes, and Trevor Roy. Though Sean Hayes might be about to finish a lap. Not sure on that one. But any time will grid you higher than someone with none. And for Pellicci, man, he looks like he's got some super quick sectors and just never got a lap together. So here's Sean Hayes in the final section. Yellow and black to the line, and he jumps all the way up to 8th outright. So that final lap coming in clutch.
Yeah, nice lap there. So, David, a bit of strategy talk, a little bench racing. Let's talk about Pellicci. We think he's got some fast sectors, probably going to start at the back of the grid. What kind of strategy are you thinking? Is it possible to do a lap 1 strat here? We pit at the end of lap 1, tank it up, and then pass him?
I suspect lap 2 is the earliest you could do, but then you still just risk miring yourself in more traffic. The other alternative is try to go long and hope people in front of you pit early, but at best, starting from 22nd on the grid for him is a really tough order in a race like this. Lee Martin, where are you on track? The last driver that I think could complete a lap time, and he could jump Polici if the 149 gets to the finish line in time. He's got a minute. He's in the fog on the Dottinghua. I suspect this will get to the checkered flag in time for Lee Martin, currently 23rd with no time. But they're all green personal best sectors so far, so I don't think you get a green sector if you go off track. Lee Martin will definitely get
this
to the checkered flag in
super
time
high
to finish
speed
this.
section right here. Yeah, I'm sure he's just waiting on the last moment here to get on the brakes and turn it down in here, probably watching that Delta bar. It's probably nice bright green, just trying to nail his marks. Come around here, see what the time's going to be.
Sets a time, jump some, 8 minutes 18.4 for Lee Martin to go ahead of drivers like Andrew Gilliland, Derek Putnam, and David Stabe. So just 10 seconds left on the clock in qualifying. That's everyone we're going to see. And it's certainly, I guess, a grid a little bit jumbled from what we would expect to see of the race pace. It will look like this. The front row, James Hansen and Rui Coimbra. Second row, Ken Copeland and Ronnie Coates. Third row, Odyssey Adams Jr. and Curtis Jones. Michael Coates and Sean Hayes, as I try to read two things at once on row number 4. Tom Athorn, you see there, with the blue stripe underneath his car number, position number, in fact, lets you know that he's in the open class and he is the pole sitter in that, with a little bit of a gap on his other competitors there, because it's Camden Hibbert who's going to start alongside him. Behind that, Chris Brunemer and Geordie Fike, Brian Zabelski, Orlando Herald, then second in the open class. And there's a cluster of those drivers here with Josh Olsen and Andy Kosick, Paulo Coimbra, Charles Vicario. You get to Lee Martin. We saw him with his qualifying attempt just going to the results very late in that session to start 19th. And Andrew Gilliland, 20th. Last drivers with qualifying times are Derek Putnam and David Stabe, and then Eugenio Polici. He gave it a go. He was out there, and just none of the laps were clean enough to put him up the front where his pace might deserve. He starts in 23rd, back with Joel Singleton and Trevor Roy. Rolling start, as you can see, Alex, and they form up at the tourist pits.
Yeah, good thing we know tolls to pay today. Looks like we have a nice Porsche pace car and getting on our way here soon.
So then just a thought about the championship as they get rolling on this formation lap in the fog at the Nordschleife. Ken Copeland leading the championship at the moment in pro from Ronnie Coates. Those two drivers, this is a risky track compared to the rest of the schedule. You think about just sticking some points here, especially while Mike Sam is away. And in the open class, it's Andrew Gilliland, Daniel Hall, Andy Kosick. I don't remember seeing Hall on the grid. So there is a couple of drivers missing from here at the Nordschleife. It means that cat is away. Some of the mice can play.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And as always with the Nordschleife, it's going to be an endurance race, even if it's only 6 laps. Still a long time around here. And one wheel put wrong on one of the 197 corners, I'm not sure how many there are, can definitely end your race. So here they come, David. Down to you.
Exactly. Green flags waiting for them for 45 minutes of racing. Exactly how many laps that is, we will wait and see. Probably 6. There's one of those tracks that's easy to tell, but it's a great jump from Rui Coimbra from second on the grid as they go on cold tyres in the dark and the cold and the fog in towards Sabina Schnitzkurve. He takes the lead from James Hansen. Well, behind that, all in relatively expected order. Gino Polici not making up any spots just yet. David Stabe and Andrew Gilliland grabbing a couple through this twisty opening part of the lap. They've just got to keep it on the track, and I'm not sure everyone has. That's Sean Hayes, and he's got big damage, and he's parked on one of the curbs, but then they come out of this part of the track into the high-speed part of the circuit, and Rui Coimbra is going to lead the field. So off the start here, looking at what happened for Sean Hayes. Bit of a squeeze alongside, he's behind Michael Coates, and behind him,
is this just a faster car coming through and misjudging someone's braking point? Yeah, it looks like maybe that was it. Man, it's a long tow from there.
Sure is, with that level of damage. Coimbra still leads as they come from the Flugplatz down towards my buddy Alex's favorite corner, Schwedenkreuz. He can pronounce it his way later on. Don't worry, I'll give you that honor. But the whole field compresses. 6 cars within absolutely nothing, almost 8 cars within nothing as they come over that crest. No downforce on these cars. The car wants to walk out wide towards that ominously painted red and white arm code that says, "Don't hit me." Others have before. Rui Coimbra still holds onto the lead, but in a race with a pit stop coming up, a little bit of fuel strategy to play out, he is leading the pack, and they are all saving a little bit behind him. Hansen, Copeland, Coates, Odyssey Adams Jr., Curtis M. Jones, Michael Coates, and Camden Hibbett as the top 8. Orlando Harrell looks like he's gotten through to the lead of the open class there, as well as Tom Athon has dropped backwards. So a great start in the open class for Orlando Harrell.
Yeah, and I think as you were talking there about saving fuel, I think as they got down through the foxhole there, those guys that are following up in Adnire Force, it's a perfect time to be lifting, just saving. Just let the power of the draft just kind of pull you along as we work our way over here closer to miss hit miss.
Someone got on the grass in the back of this pack here. Don't think it was Coates, so it might have been Camden Hibbett from Metzgersfeld. They go through Galgenkopf. I've been studying, by the way. And then they get towards miss, hit, miss. Little S's on the way in. And you're looking to carry speed through this continuous section here. And then a difficult braking zone next up where the track really drops away. Some of the most dramatic elevation change outside of the carousel here. So easy to run in deep and push out wide.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the slowest corner on the course. I'm not sure of its name, but it's one that almost always requires second gear. And then here into this left, right, left section, almost always in third gear in every car. Lots of fun as we lead up out of here onto the Lauda Kink.
So not a lot of change in this group so far, except to see Camden Hibbett with problems starting to drop off this leading group. From 8 cars, it goes to 7, and Brunema and Fike have caught Camden Hibbett. Brunema's been pretty consistent so far in the first 3 rounds, puts him in a good place in the championship. And along with Geordie Fike, they're looking to move up a little bit. Starting to close up.
Yeah, important for Jody Fike here to get a great run here. That's that corner there is Bergwerk, and as a good friend of ours once said, it's the most important turn on this course. It leads onto this uphill straightaway, and it is probably the longest amount of sustained full throttle outside of the Dottinger Hoe. And being that it's uphill, I would say it's almost more important. I think they'll have to lift just a little as they approach Moot Curve, but who knows? Maybe they can make it through the Courage Bend flat.
Well, they're not going to in third place because they're side by side as Ronnie Coates and Ken Copeland battle it out. Coates got so gutsy to try to get down the inside there, and it didn't work. So in the top 7, they're starting to try to shuffle some positions.
Yeah, as we work towards the most famous corner on the race course where there will be no passing without a major mistake, the famous carousel, but it's quite easy to shoot yourself out and end up there on the flat and lose a second or more on the lap. But it looks like all the front runners get through nice as we approach the highest point on the circuit.
Yep, Hohe Acht. The Nordschleife actually only barely has more difference highest to lowest point than Bathurst, I will say, to defend my nationality and my honor, but certainly way more challenge here as Rui Coimbra, I think in this twistier back half of the circuit, starts to come a little more into his own and they start to battle a little more behind him. James Hansen maybe showing a slightly defensive line to Ken Copeland and Ronnie Coates through here. Coates a little wide off the apex at Vipperman, a little wide off the apex at the next, and this is where the drivers who've practiced and been consistent have practiced this section of the lap more than the drivers who've practiced the first half, crashed, reset, practiced the first half again.
Yeah, and as you know, David, this is a track where one corner feeds to the next. It's almost polar opposite of something like Watkins Glen, where you have one apex to attack at a time, and if you screw it up, it really doesn't affect the next one. Here, from the top of the hill all the way through this back section, one feeds into the next after the next, and if you screw up one, you might be losing time for a minute and a half.
Right, you get offline in one, it sets you up wrong for the next, etc., etc. They're about to come out of that section, though, towards Schwalbenschwanz and Coimbra.
In the carousel. The small carousel, one of our favorite corners.
Actually, honestly, more challenging, more risky, more committed than the OG carousel, because the banking tapers off just a little bit early, tempts you to throw too much speed in, and you can wash out towards the grass and towards the Armco on the exit of it. But everyone will be looking forward to and relishing the next straight coming up, and you expect to see the slipstream in these cars really kick off. Still 7 cars in our lead pack. Behind that, they fan out a little bit to the next battle is Gilliland Roy and Putnam for 17th on the circuit, but Coimbra's race lead for the first time this lap and in this race really could come under fire as James Hansen gets to his rear bumper, doesn't pull out, starts to push him, but they're side by side behind that with Copeland and Coates. Coates gets his nose in front, but one of them needs to be able to pick up the slipstream off the leaders here to leapfrog the other in that third place battle. They're really barreling towards the leaders now. Coates has got ahead of steam, and then he switches lanes back to the outside. He goes from 4th to 3rd to 2nd. Can he lead this race down in towards the Tiergarten? He's got momentum on Rui Coimbra, and from 4th in the train as they came onto the straight, it looks like Ronnie Coates is going to go to the lead of the race. That is these cars in the Dottinger Hoor.
Yeah, and it looked like he got in there quite deep, but he was able to keep it inside the bounds, come around, clip another lap, and right now you're safe again. Once you get to that single track type of section there in the last couple corners, you're safe again. They probably won't have a chance to pass you until we get past Flugplatz. So right now, I think he's probably just going to try to concentrate on hitting his marks and maybe building a bit of a gap. But it's so tough to get away here with the 3 or 4 long straightaways that connected. It seems like just as you have enough twisty bits to start to build the gap, then again the guy behind you gets a straightaway to suck it back up.
Coates really pushing across the curb through the Hudson back to try to break that gap to all the drivers behind. He's got exactly 1 second, and we've seen Hansen willing to push Coimbra. Ken Copeland's in the mix now. Would he be willing to push Rui Coimbra up towards Ronnie Coates to stop him getting away? That's the kind of thing we're about to find out through the Flugplatz. At the top of the hill there, cars get super light, but from a 1 second lead, it does start to diminish now. Coimbra now within 7 tenths, 6 tenths. You work so hard and it can all be for naught.
Yeah, and the guy running in third here can lift 300 meters before Schwedenkreuz and coast all the way around the bend here and then just drag his brakes gently. And now he's right back in the train. So, yeah, it's very tough for the leader, but sometimes it works. Sometimes they mess up. Sometimes you can get away just enough, and that's enough. So it keeps you trying.
No pit callers that first time around, just the damaged cars of Sean Hayes, Josh Olsen, and Charles Vicario. Pit window really should open at the end of next lap. drivers will be able to get to the end of lap 4 on the starting fuel, which was about 5 gallons or 20 litres. I think it's like 5.5 gallons or so. And that's when the pit window really opens and we maybe start to see some strategy. I don't think anyone in this outright lead battle here, this leading 7 cars, has any advantage to be gained from pitting early. But maybe for some of the open class guys, they could think about it if they think they're getting held up or they just want to do something different.
Yeah, I think if you're in the lead group, you just stay here and do what everyone else is doing. Try to stay with the draft. Even if you're the leader, you don't know what it's going to be like whenever you pit, and you at least want someone else to go, because if it goes bad, you can deal with it. And you know that if, we'll just say there's six, 7 of them, you know, if 2/3 of them stay out together, they're going to be faster. So, yeah, I think you just stay out as long as you can if you're in the lead group. But I think if you're one of those guys that started in the back and you might be trying to get around some of these guys, maybe in a different class, you know, maybe it's time to pit next time by, out the windows open. Maybe you got a little bit of damage too. That could be slowing you down these straightaways.
Next section of track where you might get a bit of movement inside of our leading group is off of Bergwerk and then back up the hill. That's where Coates got aggressive the first time around, which was a little surprising to me, but we'll see if someone else does it again. Still trying to get away in the lead, and Copeland's pushing Rui Coimbra. So again, anyone who's not the leader will work with anyone who's not the leader to stop the leader getting away. It's 7 MX-5s in a bucket. Coates.
Oh, here we go. We got someone taking a look.
Yeah, Hansen in 4th had a bit of a look. Copeland in 3rd didn't really think about it, but they all compress as they then need to go through this section of the track. Your top 5 are close. Odyssey Adams Jr. and Michael Coates still, I think, riding a safe distance back from this, because I smell a bit of disaster for the top 5 maybe. They really just all got absolutely bumper to bumper. And then towards here before the carousel. If you don't pass there, I don't think you're passing until the Dottinger Hoa, to be honest.
No, I think you either stick it in on Moot Curve or right at the top of the hill, or you just have to wait. And then the next good spot, you know, probably isn't until Aaron Sector.
That might be a bit of a niche reference for our dear viewers, but worth saying. Some love to Orlando Herald then as the open class leader, because things have worked out well for him. The battling behind and the issues that have befallen Tom Athon and others, his lead in class is very, very handy. He's got, I think, 6 seconds to the next outright car, but even more to Andy Kosick and even more to Paulo Coimbra in the open class, who's had a problem, spat out of the carousel too early and looped it around.
That's what we were talking about. That's even a bigger penalty than I expected. But yeah, it's a very simple corner, but it's one that punishes you so much if you try to take any. And there's really nothing to gain, right? There's the 8/10 way through that's just about as fast as the 10/10 through.
Yeah, so yeah, he's next car in class for Orlando Herald, Andy Kosick with Eric Putnam and Tom Athon, and this is a great open class battle. All 3 of these drivers here in the open class, and there is some pressure on Mr. Mint, Andy Kosick, with Derek Putnam right in behind him, and Tom Athon recovering after a difficult first lap. I think that recovery is going pretty well for Tom Athon, but I think you can see the damage on his car, Alex.
I think so.
Oh,
it's going
but now
be
he's going
tough.
to have a go. Derek Putnam slowed up.
Yeah, might as well. And I think the damage won't hurt him too much as long as he has someone he can tuck behind. This is a very high-speed circuit. I don't know, many people might forget, even with all the turns, I'm not sure what the average lap speed is, but it's, the drag on your car is very important.
Well, there's really only one hairpin around the whole circuit, and it's the very, very famous one. And the leaders are on the very, very famous Dottingerhohe, which is a very long straight. Ronnie Coates in the lead, gets bumped by Rui Coimbra. Ken Copeland pulls out to try to take it away. Hansen and Jones were side by side behind, and super speedway style, one driver pulls out, the others try to go along with them. And so at the moment, Ken Copeland gets to the lead, but can the drivers in the white car around the outside push each other? It looks like Hansen doesn't want to bump. He just wants to sit in behind and save the fuel. So side by side down underneath the Bilstein Bridge, they've got to go single file by the Tiergarten. And who can take the lead? The inside belongs to Jones, and he's willing to massively outbrake Ken Copeland. Any takers for the pit lane this time around as the leaders are still side by side. Not out of this lead pack. We didn't think we would. So Curtis Jones then wide out the final corner. He's going to be scored as leading the lap. Ken Copeland looks down the inside at turn number 1 here. Recently renamed Sabina Schmitz curve. And so Copeland goes to the lead. It's oh so predictable, 90% of the lap. But once they get onto the Dottingerhohe, all bets are off. You don't know how they're going to jumble themselves.
Yeah, I think everyone wants their turn to show that they can do the fast lap out front. But I think realistically, as an outsider looking at it, I think your best spot's to be about 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in there, and just hanging along, saving fuel, have a short stop, build that gap there, because you're not going to be able to build 4 seconds of a gap here on the racetrack in this group, but you might be able to build 2.5 seconds worth of gap of pit stop savings.
So your team, Odyssey Adams Jr. or Michael Coates, perhaps. I swear we've seen Michael Coates do this before as well. I think doing a similar thing at Watkins Glen, for example, being part of the lead pack, but not being part of the shenanigans, just holding that 3-4 tenths back and saving the fuel and watching what happens. They're side by side towards Schwedenkreuz as Jones needs to defend from Coates. And I just noticed Camden Hibbert is not being dropped by these leaders. He's still there working his little tail off to try to get back in within 1 second of the leading group. And I think he's done it.
Yeah, and that's an unintended consequence of racing for it, going down the backstretch instead of working together, pushing, trying to, set the ultimate pace. Worrying about who's going to be the lead dog allows more dogs to get in the fight.
Yeah, so there's Hibbert in 8th at the moment. Dramas for the leader, though. Ken Copeland into the wall at Adnauer Forst. You've seen that move on YouTube before. You just get in too hot across the blind crest, leap a little bit too much of the curb, and once you touch the grass, there's no slowing that car down before the tight chicane. And for Ken Copeland, that is a common, easy mistake, and it's cost him pretty severely. He's back to 8th, and there's damage on that car significantly.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but you'll have to remind me, do we get a fast repair?
I don't know. I think so. Looking at Sean Hayes' pit stop time, for example, it certainly looks like it. There's no easy or good opportunities though to take one on the Nordschleife, because if you have an incident and it's halfway around the lap, you're limping for what would be considered 2 or 3 laps at any normal circuit. So for Ken Copeland, that's still very damaging, and I'd say his chances of winning probably gone there. His chances of a points result have not disappeared. Open class, Tom Athon ahead of Andrew Gilliland. Athon flying along as Gilliland's last lap was 8:15 to Athon's 8:07.
So Athon on the move here, trying to build the gap down through miss, hit, miss. Here it takes a lot of commitment. And it kind of goes against normal racing driver thought, right? That faster is always better, but perfect speed is always better. And that's a Mr. Rule that you could apply to every turn at this course, that it's not always better to be faster. It's better to be on the perfect line and the perfect speed.
Side-by-side race leaders, Ronnie Coates is going to take the lead away from Curtis Jones as they work along here up through Kesselchen and towards the Bravery curve, isn't it? That's certainly where it looks like Curtis Jones might have an opportunity to pull back out. Thinks about it. James Hansen behind, Rui Coimbra back in fourth. Camden Hibbett on this train is making it a 7-way fight. But through Bravery curve, Ronnie Coates holds on to the race lead.
Yeah, if I'm James Hansen, I just want to push this away. I want to try to get my breakaway. You don't want to take a look. It looks like, though, that
the more people with tickets,
starting to put a bit of a gap here. Yeah,
the more people with tickets, the lower your chance in the lotto, right?
That's right. And I'm thinking now, if we have teammates and it looks like these two are painted very similar, I think now maybe if I have a fast teammate, we go ahead and pit, especially if we can build enough of a gap to where it might break the draft for the guys behind, to where the leader will, lose out here. So I think you got to do something a little different. But I guess, there's always the draft and just dive it in there at the end. But it looks like the pace is starting to pick up to where it may not be a strategy type of deal. The leader seems to really be putting it down here.
Very short pit lane here on the Industry Fight and not using the Grand Prix pits. So your pit delta is pretty short. You're going to need about 20 seconds of service, I think. So you measure backwards from where the leaders are, 35 seconds back on track. That'd be ahead of the open class battle between Derek Putnam and Andy Kosick, but behind Gennaro Pollicci and Orlando Harrell as well. That's...
Oh, no.
That's a big one. Is that Copeland again? 71. Derek Putnam, sorry. Wow, he was battling there, and he has a problem late on around the lap at near kilometer 15. Don't beach it on the curb.
Yeah. All right, back to the lead here. These guys nose to tail, keeping it tucked in. Let's see, who's in that green car?
That's Michael Coates.
Yeah, I think he's in the catbird seat. I've been watching him. I think he's measuring up these guys, just waiting his turn.
I think we're about to see it all kick off once again when they come over the hill at Gulgenkopf and onto the Dottinger. We've seen drivers be able to go from 4th or 5th in the train and take the race lead by the end of the straight. You pull out immediately, then the guy behind slipstreams off you, leapfrogs you, and then the next, and then the next. Coates leads at the moment. Curtis Jones immediately pulls out to make it side by side for the race lead. Hansen is then going to benefit from that. Coimbra's got a triple toe where he is in 4th place at the moment, and he doesn't elect to bump 3rd. He elects to pull out. He's got the most speed of them all. 1st and 2nd have been side by side for a long time, so they start to stall out as you go uphill towards the Bill Stein Bridge, and it works out for Rui Coimbra as he goes from 4th to 1st once again, immediately chops back across to slipstream Ronnie Coates to try to help Coates hold on to 2nd place, side by side over 2nd. Coimbra's already jumped them, cleared them, and back onto the racing line way before the Tiergarten. Big moves by him. Pit entries to the right-hand side of the circuit here if any of them want to take it, and I don't think any of them do here. We might see some more elect for that deeper in the field, but Rui Coimbra demonstrating what you can do on the last lap here as well if they find themselves in a similar battle.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. He just showed that 4th place to 1st place, easy peasy. And that all these laps from here to the end, except for the last one, will be practice for that. The one worry I would have is showing your hand a bit much. These other guys, it might not be so easy to go 4th to 1st on the last lap. Maybe they played a little easier on that one. So I think some of these other guys now can measure from that and know they need to get up there, probably 2nd, 3rd, so they can make their move there on that last lap.
Open class leader pits. Orlando Herald's in, just behind pro class drivers Geordie Fike and Ken Copeland, who obviously was carrying quite a bit of that damage. Expected to see him pit on the earlier side of the window. Tom Athon also comes in from the open class and has had massive speed around this track. Seems like he's a little bit of a ringmeister, and he'll probably get the damage on the nose of his car fixed as well. So 27 seconds of service for Herald. Seems a little on the long side because everyone else has gone sort of somewhere between 18 and 22. But, well, he had a very convincing open class lead before that, that's for sure. Lead pack, they're going nuts again, side by side over Schwedenkreuz. Leads changed as Coates went past Coimbra. They were too wide, too deep for a second there. They have to go single file on the way into Arenberg as Camden Hibbett gets down the inside of Michael Coates, who will probably roll over for that 7th place. This is the in-lap towards the pits, and I think that turns up the pressure and the willingness to fight a little bit more. Odyssey Adams Jr. is getting his muscle out side by side with James Hansen.
Yeah, and I think that's why you want to do the alternate strat. I think we're going to try to shove 7 of these guys into a tube stock. You know how tight this entry is. There is no passing. And just like the race course, it's so tight that you don't want to risk smashing the barriers and having a longer stop. So I just don't feel like it's, the GP course, you can attack the pit entry. This pit entry is not one you can attack. I feel like in this kind of pack, you would be better served to have already pit, but we won't know. But I do agree. You got to get up there towards the front. These guys that are a little farther back, I think, are going to lose out after the stop shakeout.
A little hint of a lock-up maybe there as they go downhill. There are heaps of corners here that the banking or the camber or the drop away really wants to unload one of the inside tires. So yeah, track position here might matter as you come in towards your pits. So maybe holding station till they get out of Bergwerk, and it is so sharply uphill through the next sector of the lap that in some way enhances how powerful the draft can be. The cars sort of stall out at their VMAX a little earlier because they're pushing through the air at speed and also going uphill. And so if you cancel out some of that aero drag, it takes a little bit of the double burden away. Coates in 7th, again, just watching this group.
I think if I'm going to put myself in the driver's seat, you get pretty aggressive here. You maybe try to make a move into Moot Curve, maybe into the top of the hill, because if you could rattle them, get them on tilt a bit, that could cost them a bit of time here on the back section. Get your timing just right, and multiply that with getting in the pits just a little quicker, getting in and out. All you need is, second and a half or so, break it away, get you a good drafting partner, and the whole complexity of this changes.
Here we go. Rui Coimbra had a chance, an opportunity, and decided to just sit in second. No one else made any moves coming up the hill that time around, but Coimbra has his nose to the rear bumper of the race leader. And the field all compresses once again. Your top 5 covered by nothing. Michael Coates just watching on at the moment. Crucially, Camden Hibbett's brought himself back into this race in a big way. He was dropped off the leading group. Now he's in there. He's 1.3 seconds away from the race lead. And in this pack, we're right in that phase where a good pit stop could be everything.
Yeah, I think so.
Just to cut back across you there, but when the top 7 is covered by 2 seconds, a 3-second pit stop would get you from last in this group to the lead of the race. A 3-second quicker pit stop.
Yeah, and I think that's achievable, right? So, this being a long course, like I was mentioning, Hansen there, I think that's 6 car, the green car. I think he's been sitting back there just saving, and I know from personal experience that, just that little bit of saving in a few places can mean the difference of going an extra lap around here. And that's with a full tank. So, but the point is there's a lot of saving to be done, especially with high speed. when you have a drafting partner, I think it might be the difference that we're going to see a big mix-up here from the guys that are pushing hard at the start to the guys that were maybe riding a bit.
Officially 154 corners. I think there's probably at least 70 of them where you can just roll out of the throttle 50 meters early, just a little bit here, there, everywhere, the whole way around the lap, and make some big savings, especially a section of the track here where you're just rolling the speed, hardly ever full throttle for a long time through this part of the lap. And oh my gosh, side by side in the Flanskart never works out. It can't. Odyssey Adams Jr. has to really check up, and then he's going to get passed by Cams and Hibbert there in the background. Really getting more aggressive as far as the jockeying for position here on the in lap towards the end of this lap 4, where we know they're all going to have to pit. If any of them don't, I'm not going to say I'll eat my hat, but because I like my hat too much, I would be honestly very, very shocked by that. I think this is an in lap, and the body language and the places they're starting to fight now where they wouldn't on lap 1 or 2 kind of shows it that it's starting to be for the big biscuits.
Yeah, I agree. I think you got to make a move here, but they all kind of stretched out. People don't. I think people sleep on the Dottinger Hoe. The 2 turns that lead here on the long straightaway are very challenging, and when taken at the limit, you can really build a big separation over other cars. And it looks like those leaders kind of nailed it on that one, and that's why we don't see the group bunching up like we did last time.
Curtis Jones is holding back in third, lets Odyssey Adams Jr. get past him. Then they're side by side for the lead with Coimbra in front, but Coates with the inside to the final corner and to the pit entry, crucially as well. The drivers on the right-hand side would get first dibs, but Coates backs out of it. Coimbra goes to the lead, and we're expecting them to stay tight on the exit here for the pit entry, which is a big, big checkup for all of them as they have to slot in to the pit entry. Some of them grazing the Armco on the way in, but should get it fixed up at their stop. That's all your leaders in the top 7 pit. It's all about the pit crews, and it's all about who takes a gamble on maybe short fueling just a little bit, hoping that they can save in the back half of the race. 10 seconds into the stops, maybe only waiting 5 or so more seconds here to see Curtis Jones with 12 seconds. He's way on the short side compared to everyone else. 14 for Hansen. Jones jumps them all into the race lead, and he's got a little bit in hand over Coimbra, Hansen, Coates, Adams Jr., the other Coates, as they leave. Gino Polici is in the pit lane. Remember, he started with no qualifying time. He's made some progress so far, so keep an eye on Polici in the back half of this race as well. Hibbert, massively long stop, drops him out of the leading group. Then there were 6.
Yeah, I know we saw a bit of a shakeup there. I'm afraid he didn't quite get the gap that he's going to need to break away. No, it looks like well within the drafting range already, but valiant effort. And I think it's a display of what we were talking about, the saving fuel, and it allowed him to do that quicker stop and get out there. And now he can try to defend that lead.
Jones' race lead is evaporating rapidly from a second to nothing. Rui Coimbra is over him. In fact, I think Curtis Jones has short-filled it, and he knows it because he lets Coimbra, Hansen, he's letting them all past. He's come out in the race lead and immediately rolled over and ceded all the advantage he's got because I think he's realized, uh-oh, I'm in trouble here. I'm well short. No way I can lead this.
Oh, no. Well, he can still make a race of this, right? So luckily, maybe he must have based the mileage off of drafting the whole way, filled it to that amount, and realized he can't run at full push. So back to the natural running order here with the 78 out front.
So variation in the fueling times. I'll read through it. And maybe hjbc.live also carries it as our live timing. Head there, hjbc.live. 12 seconds I'm seeing for Jones, 14 for Hansen, 17 seconds for Coimbra and Ronnie Coates and Odyssey Adams Jr. That seems like the baseline. Everything shorter than 17 seconds is just a little bit of a short fuel potentially. Michael Coates getting 15, though he would have saved a lot in the opening running. So I think Hansen and Jones, who are second and third at the moment, are going to struggle to push aggressively on this lap, and next lap would be the final lap of the race as well. Yes, you can see box times for some of the drivers on hjbc.live.
So you're saying we should see the white next time, lap and a half to go?
Yeah, I think so. 9 minutes left on the clock now. When they come around, the remaining 2/3 of the lap will be well underneath 8 minutes to go. That would be white flag. One more lap here.
Yeah, so you got to be in position, and like we've talked about with this draft, you know, it's a bit of a gamble there at the end, and it can be a bit frustrating as a driver, but I think the 78's doing everything he can here. There's a possibility he can break away, or at least make it to where it's only one or two of them that have a chance at him, right? Not all 6 or 7.
Other thing to keep in mind, not long ago, Orlando Herald had a monumental lead in the open class. He's also had, well, we talked about, he stopped a little early, had a bit of a long stop. Tom Athon, about where we would expect at an 18-second stop, is only 4 seconds behind him and moving quickly. I think this is not a guaranteed done thing for Orlando Herald in the open class. Tom Athon, despite that problem on the first lap, was very quick in qualifying and has been very quick since, just dispatching the rest of the drivers in his class. In fact, I think half a second's been taken out of that just as I was talking about it. This is the race leaders after their pit stop, all formed up once again as a group of 6. Coimbra from Hansen, from Ronnie Coates, from Odyssey Adams Jr., Curtis Jones short on fuel, dropping back into 5th, and Michael Coates in his happy place. I've said it before, hanging on, the Coates hanger in 6th.
That's right, as they all fly through the carousel here on the penultimate lap, heading up to the highest point, Halzenbach.
Hohe Acht.
Hohe Acht.
One of the few places you want to ride the curbs in this part of the track, because it can open up into the pretty much 90-degree right-hander, and then it's all twists, turns, massive undulation from here on out. You can ride a little bit of the curb in the left of Wipperman here as well.
Yeah, I just love this section. It always felt like almost like slalom skiing, right? It's just the downhill with the turn after turn after turn, and you don't even really need much horsepower, right, to go fast. It's just so much fun.
See Michael Coates almost dropping off this, as it's definitely part of the track where the drivers with more experience, more confidence start to open the gaps up a little bit. Then we get to the long and faster and straighter sections where they close up all once again. Oh, Tom Athon's dropped a little bit of time just now on this lap. Now out to 5 seconds behind Orlando Herald.
Yeah, I'm worried about the Coates hanger here. Slipping off of the rail a bit, so needs to tighten it up if we're going to have a shot at it here. This is so high speed through here. You're really pushing, and like you mentioned earlier with the Klein carousel, it is more challenging than the OG because you can take so much more speed. And there is such a difference in 8/10 and 9/10 and 10/10, where the OG, there's really just one speed.
Once you're into the proper carousel, you stay in it, and the exit's not particularly difficult. You're just waiting on it to then, pop out. But the little carousel, it unbanks a little bit early and tries to spit you out if you carry too much speed. So heading towards the white flag this time, 3 wide for the race leaders. Rory Coimbra was leading, but he gets swallowed up as Ronnie Coates shoots around the outside. James Hansen then looks to follow him. Odyssey Adams Jr. has a massive run and opts to push his teammate, Rui Coimbra. I think we do have some teammate battles starting to shape up here where it's good to have a friend, but Ronnie Coates leads them down towards the Tiergarten. Is he going to be able to cover off Hansen? Hansen's looking to get around him, but I don't think can brake as confidently as Ronnie Coates can to lead them coming into the final lap. And he gets in so hot to the Tiergarten, I thought he was going to get the grass and the Armco. He really looked to just outbrake to hold that lead, leading them onto the final lap. Curtis Jones in the pit lane for the second time. He did short fuel it. He doesn't think he can go another lap on that one.
No.
And so from a long pit stop costing Camden Hibbett's chance of a race win, it's a short pit stop that takes away Curtis Jones' chances. Then there were 5, or were there only 4? Now a second between 4th place and Michael Coates. I think the race win is now a trophy with 4 drivers with one hand on it.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. It's really going to need to take flight here through the Flugplatz if we're going to keep it in 5 drivers. But our leader, Ronnie Katz, just continuing to set such a blistering pace, it's hard to hang on.
I might have preempted the demise of Michael Coates a little bit too early because it's so quick through this part of the lap. You're quick up the hill, so long as you stay committed through Flugplatz at the top of the hill, then it's super quick downhill and then back uphill in this next section. And he's there, and he's with them. And Coates trying to be defensive at Schwedenkreuz as Hansen looks to go round the outside of him. Very, very dangerous move, but he's done it to take the race lead into the braking zone for the right-hander at Arenberg. Hansen goes to the race lead now.
Yeah, that is a very dangerous corner. I've seen many a race lost there. But he was able to make it stick as they raced down into the foxhole. Probably one of the steepest parts of the track.
And then it's immediately back uphill into Adenauer Forst, where we saw Ken Copeland's race come undone. And unfortunately, he's had another incident. He looks like he might even be a DNF. Ken Copeland, these drivers in our top 5, negotiating it with a little more respect and aplomb this time around. I can see Coates trying to set up a late apex off this to come at the leader, but Coimbra is all over him in 3rd place.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see Roy. He's taking a look here. He wants to be in 2nd. It's a shorter run to the lead. I don't think he wants to be in the lead. But, here we go. As 2nd place just looks to be missing his marks a bit, sliding back.
Yeah. Coates got a little wide at the left hand, which I think is Metzgersfeld, but I'm not confident on that. But I should have just sounded confident, and there's probably only half of the people could correct me and tell me I'm wrong. Yeah, he got in a little wide there, and then Coimbra checked up behind him, and it checked up the tail of this group and gave just a couple more car lengths to Hansen. This one I'm confident is Verzyfen, as you want to get a good exit off there and then downhill. It's kind of, you can jockey for position now, but we've seen 4th place in this pack could come onto the Dodingerhoor and take away the race win.
Yeah, he can if we're all still nose to tail when we get there. But what if 3rd place screws up when we get to the carousel and then it's only 2 of us? I need to be in at least 2nd. Just race car driver thinking. Now I'm thinking let's just send it into Bergwerk here and get a position. But it looks like no one's close enough as they get the run up the hill. Here, I think we just got to stick it in, keep bump drafting. If you're in 2nd place, that's as far up as you need to go until you get to the long straightaway.
Hansen and Coates were shallow into Bergwerk. Coimbra set it up for a good exit, and the 3rd place driver is closing quickly on them. I think rolls out of the throttle a tiny bit when he sees 1st and 2nd bump draft, and he knows if he pulls out, then he's going to stall out and they'll get past him. But
here we go.
It's his time to try to pull out of the slipstream. Could have done it earlier, waited for it, worked with them, and goes to the race lead into the Bravery corner before the carousel. Coates, Hansen, Coimbra, Adams Jr. and Michael Coates. Time expires, and they saw the white flag, and this is the last lap, the last opportunity for Spec-5 World Tour glory.
Yeah, great move there in the mid curve. You getting that lead, that's a power move. Now you can set the pace here on the backside of the track. There's not a good passing zone for them. It's time to just put your head down. Maybe try to get a half a tenth here through the carousel, pop out, get to the top of the hill, and then just start working your way down. Second place, giving chase hard, but the gap is starting to build.
We might not get a good chance to check in with it again. Orlando Herald holding the open class lead, and I think Tom Athon's had to back it up a little bit because that gap's now out to 7 seconds. It was down as close as kind of 3 or 4 at one point. Things are looking a little bit better for Orlando Herald in the open class, and then Athon in second, Andy Kosick in third in that class at the moment. Orlando Herald's biggest problem, I think, is having Brian Zabelski as a pro class driver breathing down the back of his neck. But worst comes to the worst, they're not scored together, and Herald would lose nothing from letting Zabelski pass. So that's where they stand in the top 3 in the open class. The top 5 in the pro class are covered by underneath a 1.5 seconds at the moment through the twistiest part of the lap from the carousel around towards Schwalbenschwanz. Ronnie Coates holds on to the lead, and every driver's mind will be thinking forward around the lap to their run off Galgenkopf and onto the Dottinger Hohe, where the race win will surely be decided.
Oh, absolutely. This is such a high-speed section, blind corners, that it's so easy to make a mistake as you come down through there, across the little jump. Gotta hold your speed back. Try to land the car straight. There's a little box here to the left. Touch it with your left tires. Work back over to the curb. Back to the left. You know where it is, but you can't see it. Hard on the gas. Now we're looking for the orange box on the left there. Now timer, braking point, and brake.
Don't want to go too early in this, but with 0.7 seconds, Ronnie Coates is thinking my best bet is fly through this final sector and hope they won't catch me. I don't think he's got enough. Coimbra had a problem out of the little carousel, nearly made that error we talked about, coming through too hot, washing out wide. So they're a lot more spaced out than they've been previous times, coming over the hill through the long right-hander. When you get to full throttle, you want to keep that foot to the floor, and you will for a long time. Michael Coates in 5th, finally starting to show his hand. 0.5 seconds in closing for Ronnie Coates as the race leader. James Hansen in 2nd, but I think Coimbra's mistake has cost 3rd, 4th, and 5th the opportunity. Alex Albert knows what he's talking about. It maybe comes down to Ronnie Coates and James Hansen. Hansen in the white car pulls out. He's got a massive overspeed, but it'll start to stall out. He might have to come across and block out Ronnie Coates in the battle for the race lead. He doesn't have to do that because Coates comes back across looking for a double dip, looking to leapfrog 1-2, 1-2 like the basketball.
He can get him back here.
Underneath the Bill Stein Bridge, Coates still has an option. He's been so good in the braking zone in towards the Tiergarten. He's got his nose back ahead and he'll muscle with Hansen, chop across him. And at the final time of asking in the final braking zone, Coates dives it in deep to take the race lead. Hansen has one last opportunity but isn't close enough. The Spec-5 World Tour win goes to Ronnie Coates from Hansen, Coimbra, Michael Coates, and Odyssey Adams Jr.
Great race. That was exciting.
How about Polici?
Oh, here we go. Maybe touching doors.
He was touching doors with Camden Hibbett, and the battle that Geordie Fike is also in. No qualifying time from Eugenio Polici, but he's in this fight right to the death. 16 positions gained, 17th if he can hold on, and they touch in the final corner. He's sideways and he spins across the line. Whoa.
I think he lost those positions, but it was still a great attempt.
You know what? He spun across the line in front of Geordie Fike still. That checkered flag comes up so early out of that final corner. Polici awesome. In 7th place, Hibbett with the 6th. Eugenio Polici from no qualifying time really raced well under the radar a little bit to come back inside of the top 10. open class leader Orlando Harrell, 7 seconds still clear of Tom Athon, who is 13 seconds clear of Andy Kosick.
Yeah, and shout out to Palucci and Fike. They both had 803 best laps, an 803.6 for Palucci and 803.3 for Fike. You know, lots of pace. I think if they could have just been on the back of that train, they would have been right up in there with them. So, yeah, congratulations. Good race, guys.
Sean Hayes, who had to tow on lap 1 from the opening sector. He's had a really long pit stop, lost a lot of time, but he has not given up, and he's rewarded by passing David Stabe on the final lap and down towards the Tiergarten. So for Sean Hayes, he probably had to work a minute or so back to catch David Stabe, but he does it on the final lap for one position up into... that's not even in the top 10 of Pro, is it?
Looks 14 in class.
But he fought for it, and he got it right at the end.
Anything worth having is worth fighting hard for.
There's one driver left to take the checkered flag, and it's going to be a long time until Charles Vaccaro comes around. He can't gain a position or lose a position. So that just about locks in our results. Ronnie Coates, he led them onto the Dotting Ahura. James Hansen passed him. He passed him back and then was fully committed in the final sector of the lap to hold on to that race win. It wasn't easy. It took muscle, but he did it. So he finished ahead of James Hansen and Rui Coimbra as the podium. Michael Coates, Odyssey Adams Jr., Camden Hibbert, Eugenio Polici, Geordie Fike, Chris Brunnemer, and Curtis Jones the top 10. Then Brian Zabelski, and your podium in the open class crossed the line in that order there, with Orlando Harrell, Tom Athon, and Andy Kosick. Trevor Roy, Lee Martin, Sean Hayes, David Stabe, and Andrew Gilliland are going to be the last drivers scored on the lead lap. Joel Singleton actually might get towed around to have counted as completing 6, and then Charles Vaccaro as well. Retirements: Ken Copeland, Josh Olson, Derek Putnam, and Paulo Coimbra. This track is tough, and it can be a really, really cruel mistress, Alex.
Absolutely. It's definitely one of those tracks that you have to race the track and not so much the other drivers. But tonight, Ronnie Katz was able to race the other drivers and the track and come out on top. Quite the impressive race that we had here. Yeah, it was great. I love all racing at the Nurburgring, and thanks guys for having me.
We got some interviews coming up now as we're able to grab the race winner. Well, I'm sure there's some sweat on the back of your neck, Ronnie, as you led them onto the Dotting Ahura. It got taken away from you, and you fought back for it, and you take a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a hard race. You stop concentrating for 1 second, and you're off in the wall, and your race is over.
Any teamwork happening there for you, or were you sort of surrounded by others sort of trying to collaborate against you?
I think it was like both ways a little bit. Definitely not a team, guys. We were kind of playing nice, and hey, I'll let you go on by here, and a little push a couple of times, and it definitely helped. I can trust those guys, and we put in quite a bit of practice, so we were kind of used to running side by side on this track.
Talk us through your pit strategy then, because a long one for Camden Hibbert took him out of contention. Too short of a pit stop for Curtis Jones took him out of contention. You've Goldilocks it with a number right in the middle.
You know what? I honestly thought I was going to pit early when I started, so I changed the strategy midstream. Nobody was holding me up. It's usually the way I look at it. If I'm getting held up, then maybe I'll try to pit off cycle. But we were all putting in really good time, and I don't think I did anything too special there. Just took the right amount of fuel. I think I had a little less than a tenth at the end. So.
Second in the championship coming into this race as well. You were in the group with Ken Copeland when he had just one of those little Nurburgring mistakes where you catch two tires on the grass and it takes away your chances. So you go to the championship lead with this performance.
Oh, that's amazing. I had no idea. It seems like it's been kind of a tough season. It seems like to just to get the finish done. I've had the pace, but just it's always a lot of really fast guys in this league that, you know, battling back and forth. Make a little mistake the wrong time, and you're not going to get back up there again.
Yeah, the Spec-5 World Tour race winner at the Nordschleife. Anyone you want to thank? Any shout outs you want to give?
Well, thanks for the Spec-5 guys for putting this on. Thank you to you guys for broadcasting this. It's always fun to go back and take a look at it and see a different perspective, and a shout out to my teammates. Definitely helps, and they kind of motivate me to get some practice in when sometimes, you know, you're trying to make time for life. They're like, nope, you need to practice. So it definitely helps. So
commitment is key around this track and in the team and in the series. Well done, and hopefully we'll see you for plenty more races left in the season.
All right, thank you very much.
There was Ronnie Coates joining us, the pro class winner. I'm looking around, I'm digging and I'm ferreting, and I can't find open class winner Orlando Herald, which would be a shame because we want to get that side of the story as well. But I don't spot him. So unless there's someone else you'd love to have a chat to, Alex, I think that almost wraps us up for a really enthralling start to finish race on the Nordschleife.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of great racing, just like all the racing I've seen so far this season with the Spec-5 series, and it did not disappoint. Thanks again for letting me join you, and congratulations to all the drivers.
Yeah, fantastic. So again, recapping our race winners, Ronnie Coates with a really well-earned victory that was not easy. He had to take that lead back in the final sector of the final lap on the Nordschleife, but he comes away with that win in the pro class. And in the open class, Orlando Herald survives the peril, potentially, of the Nordschleife. Tom Athon, great qualifying, not quite so able to do so. And Andrew Gilliland, the class leader there, showing that you can be a great driver anywhere else, but the Nordschleife requires a special certain something that can be difficult to perfect. This has been round 4 of Spec-5 World Tour for season 13 from the Nordschleife. Next week, same time, coming to you from Laguna Seca, another track with some great elevation change, but just a little bit shorter. You'll see it here on HJBC, and we look forward to bringing you coverage of that one then. David Haynes with Alex Albert, Michael Derby as our producer. The Nordschleife has delivered. 2 drivers survive the green hell to come away with class wins.